Welcome back. Just to prove to you that I, took a break, I changed my shirt and I changed my beverage. Okay, we talked about phase 1. Let's move on to phase 2. Again, like I said earlier, I'm not going to go into a lot of details. I just want to, go fast and let you do the digging in and learning the details. So the second phase is a major component in both the traditional teaching and the flipped classroom. However, the teaching method is pretty different here. It's direct instruction by the lecturer or the teacher to the classroom, whereas here there is no such traditional lecture. It's more of a group activity, no lectures. It may involve quizzes, discussions. Students can use this time to clarify questions they got during phase 1, and essentially this is a session of active learning, active participation by the students. In contrast, on the traditional teaching, it's all passive learning, one-way stream, teacher towards the students. Some students may ask questions, but by and large, it's a one-way avenue, right? But it's different on the flipped classroom. One important thing is, so with phase 2, it's usually limited to learning or developing hard skills, the core competencies. Whereas with the flipped classroom, during these group work sessions, like I said, there's active participation. So students have a chance to learn not only the hard skills, but also the soft skills, teamwork, communication, social skills, collaboration, etc., etc. Now, because this is, limited to the hard skills and it's a one-way avenue, passive learning, there is not a lot of opportunity for students to, gain high levels of understanding. I'm sure you all are familiar with the Bloom's taxonomy. So with the old traditional kind of teaching, you only get to learn the lower levels of the Bloom's taxonomy. Whereas with the, now we move on to the third phase of the flipped classroom. Typically on the traditional teaching, this is where the homework will be assigned by the teacher. And unfortunately, some of the students may not even have understood the fundamentals by this phase, and they only start to understand those if they attempt at the homework during this phase, and they may not have a chance to clarify with the teacher again, which is a sad situation. In contrast with the flipped classroom, students already know the fundamentals, and not even the fundamentals, they even know some advanced stuff, hopefully, during the discussions of phase 2. And this phase 3 can be used to obtain even higher levels of the Bloom's taxonomy by instilling even higher levels of advanced material, by assigning an advanced assignment or some kind of an assessment. So this is a great opportunity to further students' understanding even more. Now you notice that the Bloom's taxonomy that I show here is slightly different to the previous one I talked about. But then, we can discuss that at class. Let's just skip that for now. Just summary of the points that were discussed earlier. Phase 1, preparation at home. There might be a few quizzes to help further the understanding during phase 1 itself, and then phase 2 again, all these discussions, in-class discussions, which may involve quizzes and assignments, worksheets, and then phase 3 more exercises to, depending on the subject, it might involve real life hands-on problem to obtain higher levels of cognition. Similar comparison, when is, what's done where. So the student aspect is what we talked about. At home, the student watches the lecture or learns from the instructional video and prepares questions for the teacher to be raised during phase 2. And the student clarifies these queries he or she had and then participates in active learning sessions. The teacher has to create the video, which might be tricky for some people, but none of this is rocket science. Very simple things that we can do and which I'll talk about during class, phase 2. And then the teacher creates the video lecture and shares with students. It might be via Google Classroom. It might be using, some kind of LMS learning management interfaces. And during phase 2, the teacher has to facilitate the discussions. Teacher doesn't dictate like in the case of traditional teaching. Teacher is merely a facilitator, allowing the discussions to go on and helping students clarify whatever points they wanted to clarify. Another slide. So in the traditional classroom, the lecture happens first and homework assigned during school, and then the student goes home and does the homework. Hopefully, with the flipped classroom, student learns from the instructional videos at home, or it might be an instructional video, or it might simply be a podcast without video, just audio. And then he might get a quiz or quick assessment to complete, and then then he goes to school the following day, and then takes part in these discussions, interactive sessions, and clarifies whatever problems he had, and he gets to interact with the teacher and his or her peers, and teacher can even offer one-on-one help, which can hardly happen with the traditional teaching method. So I've covered the major fundamentals of the flipped classroom. So I want you to go through these next few slides and come to class with answers for these points. Right? So first thing is, you can go through these and see if these are true or false. Right? So I'll help you with the first one. Asking students to self-learn broad topics. That is wrong. That is not what flipped classroom means. You can't just give a broad topic and ask, okay, children, read about the cardiovascular system by next Monday, and I'll ask you some questions. You cannot do that. That is not correct. Right? So I want you to go through all of these statements and state whether they are true or false before coming to class. And I also want you to think about this. Something that teachers are afraid of is, does these videos replace the teacher? If all these instructional videos are available, is the teacher even needed anymore? Right? So think about that.